Hey you guys, it's MJ from Alta Love. How are you? I felt inspired to go live. I actually recorded a video and started editing it, and I sort of lost steam, which is kind of showing me that I really do love the live platform on YouTube specifically. It helps me process thought, and I know that there's sort of a channel, as it were, and I get lots of cool insights about how I make sense of spiritual awakening, how I make sense of energetic transformation, and manifestation in that regard, and ultimately the global paradigm shift, which those of you who follow my channel and my kind of continuing story know that a big piece of my early awakening was the awareness that there needed to be a paradigm shift. Granted, it was the first time in my adult life that I'd even heard the word paradigm being used, and I intuitively understood what it meant. And it's like a leap. It's a leap of perspective. And then, on a spiritual sense, you could say it's a shift in our energetic frequency. So we're operating from the lower base chakras of our human form, and we're rising those chakras up to the heart. And as those energetic centers rise to the heart, we can begin to unify and yoke inspired thought and bring it into manifestation. If we're still operating from a lower frequency, or the base chakras in our beingness, we're perceiving through a perception of separation, lack, and fear. The wound of separation, and how I intuit and see it, is the ultimate wound of humanity in the darkness in the old paradigm. And we have to recognize that almost all that we've built and created and formed thus far, a lot of it, is based on that illusion, is based on the illusion of fear and separation. And so when we start to make the shift, when we begin to have these spiritual awakenings, they impact us oftentimes in our suffering, in our pain, in our reflection, and in our confusion about the state of the world, and the deep suffering that we perceive in the world. And how, when we begin to learn about law of attraction and stuff, it's quite an undertaking to integrate the energy of divide and conquer, and the energy of fear, and the energy of separation, ultimately, because there are wounds within us all that are attached, you could say, or directly linked to the wounds of the world that we perceive. So, how to make sense of a global paradigm shift? Well, it's one, you could say it's sort of a divine cosmic plan, and as beings, as we awaken to our cosmic origins, that's a term that is used in different spiritual circles. We begin to be able to better make sense of our beingness as a being, as an individuated aspect of consciousness. We start to remember bits of ourselves, which then help us make sense of the relationships that we have, and the energy that drives us, or the purpose, as it were, that drives us. And the more we surrender or let go of our attachment to the world of form, that's a big piece of this, is that there is a withdrawal on a spiritual journey where we really begin to realize that the answers are not out there in the world, because the world as we know it is created from our past perceptions. So the withdrawal is like creating this void within us as beings, this emptiness, and it's purging or clearing or healing our past patterning, which is our ancestry. So like my family lineage on both sides, some people say 6-7 generations back, which is my genes, my DNA, right, my makeup. And then on an energetic, on a broader cosmic level, I have my own personal karma as an individual soul, which is part of my own soul's intent for making manifest as a being on an earthly plane. And all beings and planets and living sentient beings are in fact cosmic beings. They are in their origins of the cosmos, right? And yet unless we can expand our mind to kind of try to comprehend a much longer timeline, which can be billions of years possibly, or certainly thousands, and you can start to trace your own past lives, which then start to make sense about the stories you've been telling over ages, which is almost, you could say, a contract between you and Earth, and then you and the galaxy, and then you and the solar system. And on the planet, the way I see, and different people talk about bifurcation, and when you start to look at multidimensionality, it's like there's infinite worlds ultimately. And so, which is part and parcel of us as beings being able to transform the fear within us, because part and parcel, or simultaneity of transformation, is a divine recognition of your eternal self. It's a divine recognition of your source point, your divine spark, right? And through that recognition, so that's the one and the same as withdrawal from the world of form, and yoga or connect or pray or meditate into that connection. So it's all within us. And a few things have come into my awareness, that part of the human trapping of the mind is that we too often probably take things literally in story, or take things literally. We think the hero must die or surrender his life in form. And yet, when you understand a metaphysical connection to creation and form itself, it's actually all happening internally. So internally, whenever we're having an experience where the emotional field is stepped away, and letting the waves of energy move through us, we recognize that there is a death process whenever we have a deep surrender and transformation within our own energy field. Letting go of a way of perceiving our reality does, in fact, inspire within us a transformational energy, which encourages us to let go of the old. And letting go of the old, in essence, is a death. It's a dying. It's a destruction, right? And so how we're seeing it act out in the world of form is a increasing polarity of the dark and the light, of the good and the bad, the right and the wrong. And this whole play, as it were, this whole dance, this whole drama, is all a reflection of humanity's awakening to their potential, right? Because all of us have different thresholds of pain and suffering and dark and light stories to tell. And again, where we get tripped up is comparative, is that we compare. So we look at the world of form and they think, oh, well, my suffering's not as bad as theirs because theirs looks way worse. But what we have to understand is that pain within the human energy field is pain, is pain, is pain. When we go into our own pain, when we can detach from the circumstances, right? When we can just feel into the energy of pain, or feel into the energy of suffering, or feel into the energy of grief, despair, whatever it is, that's our common ground. Is in recognizing, and when we really own our own suffering and own our own pain, that is what brings about this greater sense of love and compassion within us, this ability to forgive ourselves for that pain. And then as we transform those energetic densities from within ourselves, we quite literally birth a new reality for ourselves. And if you imagine more and more and more and more people on the planet begin to do that, and we can see it in a micro and macro sense. So more and more people in their personal lives who step away from shitty jobs that enslave them, who step away from relationships that abuse them, that really believe in themselves, that they can make their dreams come true, that they can, and really commit to that path. More and more humans that begin to do that, the old world simply disappears. And it depends really on how attached we are to the reality of the external world, because that's how heavy the program is. And that's ultimately why I really encourage people to unplug from mainstream media, unplug from even social media, unplug from what we've been told is the real story or the real reality out there, and tune in to yourself. Tune in to what are your real, authentic dreams and desires, because they are unique. They're special for each and every one of us. And the more we yoke that interconnection, the more easy and loving and nurturing life can become. But we have to be willing to allow that. We have to be willing to open ourselves up to receive that life that we desire in our own benevolence, in our own grace, right? So that process of withdrawal doesn't necessarily mean renouncing all of your material possessions. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be in service in the way that Mother Teresa was in service. It means that you shift your focus from what you can get from the world, from how you can get ahead, from what you have to prove to other people, and you instead drop into your heart's desire, your true heart's call. And it's profound, you guys. Like, when we tune into that heart, it will essentially transform everything in its way, which means a perpetual kind of transformational, cyclical process rather than a chase, i.e. the rat race or the hamster wheel or the conveyor belt of the system, that we kind of step off of that and like become the fullness of our creative field. And more, we are much more powerful that way. And that's part of us encouraging and kind of coming back and finding creative ways of encouraging one another to make the leaps, right? Because the more and more of us who do it, the more and more of us that can just start enjoying our new realities, right? In the deeper commitment and faith that this is being born, that we are really endeavoring this, and there's no more excuses. There's no sort of, it seems, as in every single moment we have a choice. We have a choice to think it's hard, and no, I have to prove it, and no, I have this to give, and no, I can't do this, or she can't do that. Or to just be your infinite void space, to just be in your divine spark. And it's funny how we get to the points that we get to, because I was just, as I do often, I'm just having these sort of insights of like, well, what does it look like, right? How do we make sense? This global paradigm shift, it just seems so monumental, and they're so big, and there's so many veils, and there's so many corruptions, there's so many rabbit holes, right? And like, the simplest way to look at it is like you feeling better about your own aliveness. You feeling more like, like I'm alive, and I'm allowed to be alive, and I'm allowed to feel pain, I'm allowed to feel this, and I'm allowed to feel that, and like all of it's acceptable, and all of it's okay, and I can do this, and I can do that, and people are going to do what they're going to do, and I can just be the creative force field. I don't need to I don't need to control it out there. I don't need to, work hard for other people, unless that is a genuine heartfelt desire, right? And in the old paradigm, following your heart can look selfish, but in the new paradigm, we recognize that our highest joy for being the highest potential manifestation for our own life force, that's our service to one another, because that is what is required for us to create and be and see the new paradigm, this new world where we have more advanced technological creations for healing, and we have a different sense of work and community and all of that kind of stuff. For sure. Like, meditate then action. Is a comment here. Meditate and then action. It's like, yeah, all of our action comes from this sort of like inspirational space, right? And no longer do we feel burdened by this idea that we're meant to have to do everything. And it's a complete reversal, which is why I think perhaps we just still have to share our process with one another. We have to share, well, how did it happen for you, and what happened for you, so that we can, in our own way relay, like, what does it feel like, and how does it kind of look for more people, because this is part of the idea of like the acceleration. Now we're building momentum, next waves are coming through. So the acceleration is that the more of us who undergo the process, the more of us who choose the path of light, you could say, then we can then share, and then that helps other people shift more quickly. And that's what I'm experiencing now. And in a weird way, I'm like, I always knew that intuitively as well. So with our experience, as we continue along, just like those who went before us and those who went before us, And the beauty is that now we're living in times of such great awareness that, again, I kind of briefly touch on this sometimes. We're not now going to be repeating our patterns. We're now having enough awareness to actually recognize the reality, like the real birthing manifestation reality, that we are transforming, generations of deep groove patterns, emotional patterns, mental patterns, belief systems, all of that, which is transforming our DNA structure, which is transforming how we create, how we are in this planet. And another way to look at it is just that humanity, enough of humanity come together to start to work in harmony with the planet herself. So there's more sense of cyclical living. It's of utmost importance that we are cleaning her up and taking good care of her. So there's a restoration of planet Earth, you could say, to a more elevated state, and that as well is going to assist it in transforming the waters and cleaning up and using the trash and regeneration. I do feel and sense our technology, not AI, but technology and more advanced sort of ways of establishing our communities, again, in harmony and sustainability with the planet. And then ultimately, because technology can replace any of the kind of laborious enslavement workforce, humanity then, we really do become more like an avatar type society. We play with nature, we meditate, we create, we learn more about our metaphysical cosmic connections. Perhaps we begin interstellar travel and have different stations and portals on the planet that help us get to know more about this galaxy as awakened conscious beings on this planet, Earthlings, right? Just like some of us have really bizarre memories of being from different universes and having time on different planets and different star systems, we have memories. We remember being there, which is where it all starts to connect with this time of day in our planet, where we have the internet, and those of us wanderers, you could say, through the internet have found others who are speaking the same language, right? And because we've found others speaking that language that we've always heard from within ourselves, it's giving us the momentum, the encouragement, the confirmation that it is safe for us to begin to speak again. Because some of us in some previous incarnations were persecuted and killed, many. So there's a programmed fear in our karmic beingness that often is too frightened to step in because of trauma from the past. But there again, as my process, as I share my method with you from the fearless life guide, it's all there in your emotional body, and it does require courage. Sometimes it requires help, healers, people to come into your reality and support you in the process. But the better we get at detaching from thought and dropping into the emotional field and allowing these, as I call them, the triggers and then the waves and the storms to move through us, and you're literally just watching it all, that is what helps us to really... So suffering is using energy to maintain a continuous sense of self and making the situation just a story about form. Man, Minx, like, gosh! I have to look at that again because it kind of like, it sweeps up. So you can make a comment about that as well, please. Because sometimes the chat comments don't come through in the bottom comments for some reason. I'm not sure. Yeah. Freedom is knowing that a sense of self dies and is reborn every moment. Yeah. Like that. Continuous. That's the ever flow of eternal, everlasting change, right? And that's what happens, I suppose, when we withdraw and we begin to resonate or choose to vibrate more in your infinite self or the divine spark or the source connection, whatever. Then it's almost like that infinity does begin to merge and expand into how we're perceiving and experience this reality. And that in and of itself is what we would call or say is like shifting us into 4, 5, 6, like the beyond densities, right? Moving us up a vibrational ladder. And now we're beginning to understand spiritually, scientifically, how it kind of all meets. And this is our 0 point of our own creation. The 0 point is when we kind of and and I just know this from the up-leveling in my own self. Hey there, Truth Kindness. I messaged some people on Twitter, by the way, and couldn't find you. Or I don't know if you messaged back or what else. So it's us accessing that 0 point, and that is such a visceral, tangible connection that you really don't want to go back, even though it continues to stir up challenges. And then we might sort of go through one transformation on one level, and then endeavors into our outer world. So we're now with relationships, now with physical manifestations, and then I guess suppose we would just continue to transform. Receive your message. I should be latest person who followed you. I couldn't see. I'm all to love world. Or yeah, is that definitely, you've definitely found me, all to love world? Oh yeah, because it's on a link. And then this is where we go into like, think about not Lord of the Rings, Jedi, Star Wars, and the most recent one with I'm bad with the names. The main, like, Jedi, the old guy who's from all the other ones, and then in the very end, he's just pure light, and he meditates away. I really resonate with that as the reality. So, like, we just ascend to the point where we can do really cool shit, but then that belief system becomes more of a collective agreement, which is what creates it. So there's another really awesome point. I'll finish with this point. Okay, cool. I'll check you out. So another way to look at it is like so you could say that the system, as it were, or like the world of fear, is just a collective agreement around with a dominant collective agreement on the planet. So that's the kind of dominant collective consciousness. And then what's happening with the evolution of consciousness, which is us as beings just becoming more aware because basically we want to feel better in our aliveness, we start to like ask questions. We start to like self-study because we're like, I don't want that. So it's like, it's got to be better. And then we have all of these insights. Okay, thank you. And then that ushers us along the path, the path of awakening, the path of the hero, the whatever it is. And then more and more humans are going through that, which is then proving there is life on the other side of these deaths, right? Of these continuous choosing to let go of that and choose something. I don't know what it is, but I'm and that we keep going on this accelerated journey, and then we keep sharing with each other, and then we like yoga's become more mainstream, like meditation's becoming more mainstream. It's suddenly like boom, the new paradigm is at some point in our manifested reality, the new paradigm becomes the dominant collective agreement among a mass amount of humans that then is the new collective consciousness, which is an evolution. It's an evolutionary cycle, which I'm pretty sure there's different astrological planetary alignments which would also prove, Age of Aquarius, that we're shifting into a new flow of energy, like a new belt of energy. So many people are spiritual, right? It's surreal. It's crazy how much has changed. 5 years, right? So it's like, well, one, a lot of us are aware of like awakenings back when, and then different portals, and then the 2012. So the 2012, the end of the Mayan calendar, the end of times, right? That was a massive turning point. And then 6 years later, Uranus and Taurus, we've had these different transformational energies coming at us, and now there's like another tidal turn, right? So it's like the inner work of the last 6 years, 7 years, whatever, is now like undergoing a birthing cycle, right? So we're now shedding, and it's so weird how multidimensional and like how we're working with patterns within patterns within patterns, but like we're shifting a whole bunch of patterns now, and just as being stepping into our new force fields, like stepping into our new up level of creation, because somehow we all collectively agreed that we'd undergo this transformation and have an evolutionary cycle. Did your mother read Seth Speaks? No. I've heard of Seth via Abraham and other law of attraction teachers, but I've never read it. It's amazing to me when you like come into different information and it's all intuitive. Like, it's like my path has always been, I'll go into bookstores or find books, and it's like, life is just awesome, you guys. Like, life is just so cool. Yeah, Seth is like old school Abraham. This is it, right? this consciousness evolution has been always part of the plan. It's like always been coming underneath, like burbling under the surface of our world. No, I've never been to Abraham. It's probably something, well, it's not like a massive priority, but I would like to go. I'm still quite intrigued by A-Fest. I've been to one A-Fest and I wouldn't mind probably going to another one, but I'm also not sure about that. Because I've got stuff like with All to Love. I've got like events and retreats and things like in the pipeline, workshops and stuff. So we'll see. We'll see how the energies flow. Personally, like if I'm just straight up honest with you, like right now what I'm feeling into is actually just going on some nice retreats myself. Yay, it's pretty expensive and you can find. Never heard of A-Fest. So A-Fest is Mind Valley. I'm not, like, again, I'm sitting with it because there's been just shifts where I'm like, yeah, I'm not like super invested in it, but there's good work being done there. There's good new paradigm, consciousness expanding, you know, like mind bending. There's really like cool stuff happening. Plus it's fun. It's like 4 days of just like high vibrational chit chat and like good food and good meeting people from all over the world. Like actually, I mean, straight up A-Fest changed my life and is definitely a piece of why I ended up publishing a book and I'm doing all this online. Which celebrities have I met? I actually have met like some, but just in random. So I've met Goldie Hawn a couple times. She randomly, so I worked at a place called Frack Snack Shack in the lake area, like a super lovely lake area called the Muskokas in Canada. And Goldie and Kurt had a cottage there. So one summer, remember Kurt Russell, Goldie Hawn, and I'm sure some of their kids, they came to Frack's and they ordered food and ice cream and stuff, and I served them, and I was like, oh yeah, good. And then, I think later on, so that was when I was still in Ontario, and then later on, so they also have a place in Vancouver. And then one random day, Goldie Hawn randomly comes into the furniture store that I worked at. There was a time I was working 2 jobs. I worked at an independent furniture store, and randomly a lady who rented a bit of the furniture store to sell some clothes she made, which I modeled for. And then I also worked at a place called Thriller, an independent skate and snowboard shop, which I also ended up getting a modeling gig through Thriller at the time. I did actually a pretty big Apple Macintosh campaign up in Whistler, which was fun. So celebrities, Kurt and Goldie. So yeah, Goldie came in, bought some furniture from the furniture stop. She's awesome. I honestly really have mad respect for Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. I'm especially like, Goldie, and who else celebrity wise? See, I don't know if I should say this, but my sister's met loads of celebrities. She works in film and worked in film for many years. And, you know, but it's not like, I think that's the weird thing of like the path I'm on and like having somebody who's been in that world, like nothing is what it seems. Especially, I know, you know, I was pursuing acting and it's tough. It's as in, nothing's tough when you're on the path. That's the thing. And when things don't resonate with us, it's tough. That's and it's all been part of the learning. Have I met any other celebrities? Like, oh, Ian McKellen. Ian McKellen came to LIPA when I was studying at the Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts, LIPA. Ian McKellen came, and because my sister, I randomly was like, Ian, you know my sister, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, yeah. And then we had a photograph together. I met Russell Brand very briefly before one of his shows that I went to. I think that's it. Yeah. Oh, but I'm sure I remember waitressing in the West End. I was a cocktail waitress at a place called Maxwell's when I first moved to London, England. Thanks, Truth Kindness. Thanks for asking the question. And apparently, I didn't know he was a celebrity though, because I just didn't know, because I was kind of already unplugged at that point and like wasn't really up on like the pop trend. And he was an attractive man, and there was like a bit of an entourage, and I don't know, the glasses were, there was definitely a kerfuffle around me doing my job well, because they had to send back a drink, and then and then one of them was kind of like flirting with me. I do, but I'm not sure, I don't remember which one. I think his name is Matt Goss. didn't know who, yeah, Matt Goss and like some of his friends or one of the brothers. I knew that because the reason I do actually know is that I'm like surveying these people, and then one of the guys at the group at the table started kind of like flirting and being like, you should come out tonight. But I had no idea who these guys were. Okay, yeah, fair. See what I mean? Like a minor celebrity in the UK, basically. I didn't know who these people were. And then one of the other waitresses was like, oh my God, that's Matt Goss. He's a fucking pop star from the 90s, or I don't know. It was something like that, right? But I think I'd started dating somebody and I was like, no. You don't want to go. So there you go. Yeah, working on different areas of my life. Thanks, guys, for joining in today. Really appreciate you being here and look forward to seeing your comments and gestating with them a little bit longer. Because I don't know if you know about the live stream. So for me, and I can probably change the setting, but I haven't figured out how. For me, when you guys comment, it like flags up. And then I can read bit, but then it goes away. And I don't know how to actually, just Google him. He's turning 50 this month. That's got to be depressing. Or he's embracing the half century, yo. It's not that depressing, surely. Oh, look. Oh, see, I'm so smart. Because now I can look at all of your comments and... Okay, I want to go back to Manx Mix, who said, it's as if suffering is using energy to maintain a continuous sense of self and making the situation into a story about form. Like this is, so you guys could look through so many of my videos and see Manx Mix's comments are always like a juicy, like slight perspective shift that feeling of like there's stuff in that, like I don't know, I find it exciting of these kind of slight other ways of looking at it that you're just like, yep, and that. That's again multidimensionality. You're just mind blown, continuous shape-shifting reality continuously. But it's fun, right? Because the more you let go, the more you're supported by the benevolence of loving grace, and then that is the reward of life. And that's when you sink into like just enjoying the journey immensely, like what Abraham talks about, because you know that you're little trying to control it is really just futile, especially when it's not, when it's not in the flow, you're just like squeezing off your well-being. So you're just like, the more you're like blah, la, la. Do you want children? That's so I don't have them, obviously, like people can tell I don't. Do I want them? So in a way, especially like where I am here now in the presence, I would have to say that like being a mother in this lifetime, I am totally surrendered to. I asked if you have children last time. Oh, did you? Okay, cool. So no. Thanks for the reminder. I don't. And do I want? So wanting for me is actually like a, if it's meant to be, it will be. I am not close to it. But because of the last 2 years for me regarding relationships, I'm actually in a transformational cycle when it comes to love, romance, men, and relationships. And again, it's visceral, tangible, everything is shape-shifting, and new visions are beginning to open up. So now I'm just opening up to that, and there's no resistance around having a child, but I'm definitely of an age now where it will have to come down to just divinity, divine timing, like literally at some point, if there is a genuine desire to request that as a gift for my lifetime, so I believe when I feel into different timelines, I believe I'd be a wonderful mother. I believe that I would enjoy having a family. I'm also very like open to adoption and being a mother in that regard. I'm also very open to just creating as much abundance as possible to serve and give and share and support my community, team love, my family, those people around me, and then the projects and things that I affiliate with. So that to me is a very mothering energy. Um, and so I'm in total kind of grace with that. So if I don't ever end up having my own child, it's like, that's okay. Like, that's not been ever been kind of a singular priority or focus for me. If I end up, not when, when I'm in my divine union and relationship. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I get that. But I'm not right now I'm kind of merged and enjoying that merging and enjoying not dictating it all. Things aren't meant to be, they're just allowed into being. Yes. And so and I guess all I'm trying to say is that I'm not here in that place because I'm not with a partner, and I know and I feel into the manifestation of that loving union and that partner, and then working, because I'm not, again, that's not a main priority for me. It would have to be the dynamic, the shared experience, the union. And then as and when in the future, if that timeline manifests, then I open my heart to that, and then, my own baby will be born. But in this present moment, having a kid is not like up there. I guess that's all I'm trying to say in a really fucking long-winded way. I have other priorities, as in manifesting a relationship and making shitloads of money to support myself and my loved extended tribe, right? So yeah, that's it. And then those pillars are getting really solid, and then we'll start building from there. And hell yeah, man, and being baby, like, great. But I'm also aware of energies taking me in like certain directions where that might happen, and I'm totally cool with that as well. So we'll see. We'll see. I kind of like the idea of adoption. Yeah, make sure the person you're dating isn't a two-faced lying. That's right. I know. Well, it's part of it in my own transformation, unifying the divide and conquer energy between men and women, coming into a place of integrity so that I can be absolutely clear and honest with the people that I engage with when it comes to like sexual connection and all that kind of stuff. Because that's another whole bloody book, you guys, about the distortion. Anywho, blah blah. Love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that was useful to you, maybe even entertaining. I appreciate your subscribes and all that juicy stuff. Did you watch Teletoon when you were younger? No. Teletoon. It doesn't ring a bell. I watched Sesame Street. And I wasn't a kid, but when I was a teenager, Teletoon, no. French one, maybe? When I was like a teenager, I used to watch Dexter's Laboratory and Rugrats. I was quite into. As a kid, I spent a lot of time outside and playing games with my dolls. So I don't have as much recollection of watching TV. But Sesame Street, The Muppets. I used to watch The Muppets. It's English and French. They aired 16 total. Drama Island. Do you know the shows? No, I don't. I do not know them. And like, especially these days, I'm so out of the loop, guys. I don't watch TV. Like, I had no idea. It's probably better to have childhood outside. It's only I wasted too much time on TV. Hey, man. That's part of this whole turning ourselves downstream is actually like, yeah, I'm tackling that with the unplugged course, because now that there's social media pieces, unplugging, and then devices, and like stepping away from our devices, like I can actually feel an energetic tick of like when my arm like wants to reach for my phone. So what do I think of Teal Swan? I think she's awesome. I think that like whenever I'm guided to watch one of her videos, I'm like, yep, that's some juicy nuggets for sure. Like, I have mad respect for all of the kind of spiritual teachers, all of the YouTubers, all of the people like, you know, I loved her coping mechanism video. Yeah, yeah, I watched that one a couple weeks ago. It's so beautiful, but that's I think finding the new paradigm teachers, and for me personally, like to be able to find women as well, like there's a gentleness around the teaching, and I totally align with that because it's so much a part of my journey and my story and my path, and I'll continue to share with you guys more of it. But yeah, as divine unique beings, we have to be able to embrace all of it and accept all of it, not as like this evil bad thing that has to be shamed, locked away, pushed away, but as opening that. And that's to me what this grace and benevolence is, and also moving into higher kind of like frequencies is our potential for healing changes, and how we interact with substance and people and energy just completely transforms, and our body has access to different energies to help us heal as well. Ever told friends about Abraham and then they get confused when you say Abraham is a woman? Well, I almost directly, because again, even just channeling can be kind of quite out there for some people. So I tend to, when I introduce Abraham, I almost immediately introduce Abraham as a woman who channels a non-physical energy flow or whatever, or not a non-physical group of beings, or a non-physical consciousness or whatever, named Esther. So and then that makes people aware like right away that, oh, okay, so this is one of those more out there sort of things. And yet those of us who listen to Abraham, yeah, well, yeah, it is. I mean, she's translating vibration. um I mean, and I also weirdly don't typically use the word channel either. I can, there's a slight perhaps disempowered thing about it personally, in that it's only these external higher beings or da da da, right? Rather than actually just totally owning all of it. Like our whole consciousness is that of the whole. Yeah, you wonder if the basketball. Oops. Of course, you wonder why the basketball player doesn't refer to themselves by another name of the different sex. Yeah. Well, and I guess that's the thing. We all have this zone. And the zone, what continues to kind of astound me in my own reality is how the zone is the shape shifting, like moving through the world of form as the form, and as your, I don't know, it's just interesting. Life is just fascinating to me. And I do love a little bit of Abraham. I'm cheeky though. I watch a lot of astrology stuff. I think that's another element of my next phase, is I'm starting to get guided into some different, like I guess higher learning. Do you ever see yourself moving back to Canada? It's no, if I'm honest. I do feel very much like the UK is my home. And but I have my family's in Canada, so I'll always be going back to Canada and visiting people that I love. But there's the UK is, yeah, just where I was guided, and even more recently, yeah, I'm having beautiful experiences here, and it's like the energy of the land is this is where I'm meant to be. So, and it's a good place to travel the world from. How good can you imitate the accent? Most North Americans can't do it. I'm pretty good at it. I mean, I did study acting, and we had to study RP, and I can do a Scouse accent because I lived in Liverpool. Scouse is another word for like a Liverpudlian accent. Scouse. So I could do like a Scouse accent as well. But most Scouses would be like, you're putting it on. And I'm like, well, yeah, all right, because I'm Canadian, so. But yeah. I mock it a lot. Like people here mock me and my accent. What do I think of Lindsay Lohan's accent in The Parent Trap? She's good for like a 10-year-old, but I've heard better, darling. All right, you guys, I'm out. I'm out. Peace out. Love you loads. Have a great day.